Joining us on this broadcast now is author Amish Tripathi on what we've just witnessed in Ayodhya with the Dwajaroha ceremony. Amish, thank you very much for your time, for joining us here in India today. I'm sure you've seen the images that have just come in of Ayodhya, of that historic ceremony. And the Prime Minister in his speech says that this is a cultural revival for Bharat. Do you think so? Do you think that this Dwajarohan ceremony that everyone's been talking about actually reflects a cultural reset of sorts?
I would agree with the Prime Minister. Look, the temple has been completed today because the Dhwaj has been raised, the Dharma Dhwaj has been raised. This has happened very rarely in history where an ancient culture, an ancient Murti Puja, idol worshipping, nature worshipping, goddess worshipping culture has lost its worship place to an invader, to a foreign invader, and has recovered it and rebuilt it once again. What happened in India happened in many other parts of the world. The Greco-Roman culture, the pharaonic Egyptians, they were all killed, massacred out of existence. We are still here. After 1,000 years of invasions, we have recovered, we have revived. And to me, the flag itself is symbolic of our cultural memory because that is the mark, the Dhwaj of the Ayodhya kingdom, of the Ayodhya empire of King Dashrath. This was, I mean, of course, the Om symbol everyone knows, the sun everyone knows, the Ikshvaku dynasty, they were Suryavanshis. But even the Kovidara tree out there. Now, this tree has been mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana. There are three Ramayans credited to
Yeah.
Valmiki ji. Valmiki Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, and the Adbhut Ramayana. The Kovidara tree was mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana, from what I recall, what I'd read. But many of the later versions of the Ramayana, actually, this tree is not mentioned. Was the memory forgotten, right? And if you think about it, the revival of that Dhwaj itself today is almost like civilizational stubbornness. We will not forget. We revived a symbol that comes from the Valmiki Ramayana days, which was forgotten even in the later Ramayans, perhaps due to the invasions. I don't know why it was forgotten. But think about the symbolic meaning of that flag itself. It shows our civilizational memory.
What do you think has made this kind of a revival possible? You see it actually globally now. There's almost a global shift back to roots, back to our traditions. Many would say it's a welcome change that today people know a whole lot more about our traditions than previously, than before. There's a whole lot of conversation about it. What do you think has sparked that?
Akshita, you make a good, this is a good question. And I think there is a global change that's happening. There was a culture that was dominant for the last 2, 3 centuries, which was the Western culture. And they impacted everyone, right? Across the world, not just India, across the world. Now, some civilizations, some countries reacted to their losing to the Western culture by becoming even more Western. Look at Turkey, what Kemal Ataturk did to Turkey. Abolished the caliphate and made Turkey completely Western. Look at what China tried to do with the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. Because Marxism is also a Western philosophy, right? And the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution in the 60s and 70s, China tried to wipe out its own by themselves. They tried to wipe out their own traditional culture because they had that attitude. Remember the song from the 60s, Chodo Kal Ki Baat Purani, and the Chinese were in effect kind of following that approach. Look at what India has done. We have modernized, but we've not westernized, right? And it's not always a perfect balance to strike. Often in the last 2 centuries, it has almost been a choice. Like if you want to modernize, you have to westernize, right? Or
Yeah.
the solution has been the other extreme, like the radical Islamists. Don't modernize, go back, 1,000 years. That's also not wise either because you're not competitive today then. How do you find a mix of both where you can modernize but not westernize? That's exactly what India is doing. This temple is symbolic of that. I told you about the flag, but think about the technologies used to build this temple, what L&T used. It was completely modern technology, right? It's a mix of the best of modernization and keeping our cultural symbols alive.
I think bringing it down to the core of celebrating our traditions, our culture, blending it with modernity, I think that's where our strength
Absolutely.
lies. And hopefully we're recognizing that also now. Another aspect through the course of this coverage that really shone through, Amish, is, the fact that we're going back to the times of celebrating Ayodhya, of celebrating the Ram Janmabhoomi. In our midst, what Ayodhya was is what it's becoming today.
Hmm. No, true. And with this, we must try and revive what Lord Ram would have expected of us, what Ram Rajya should be. For example, Lord Ram was very inclusive. Look at his relations with Nishad Raj. Look at how he treated Shabarima, right? He was very inclusive. We should be that way as well. And again, I like the fact that when this temple, when the first Shilanyas was done, they had a Dalit Hindu do the Shilanyas, Chopalji, as you know. And this to me, was in a way good. It was, in fact, in every way good because it reformed something that needed reforming, and yet keeping the best of the old as well. And this is the balance that we should strike. And I would argue that in this temple, we must, not just include and invite Hindus of all castes. And as you can see with the Sapta temples that have also been set up, but we should also invite all other dharmic religions, Buddhists, Jain, Sikhs. We must invite Indian Muslims, Indian Christians as well. Lord Ram belongs to everyone. As KK Mohammad Sahib had said so beautifully, the brilliant archaeologist, that Babur was a foreigner. This was an Indian foreigner fight. And we have got our place of worship back. We've got Lord Ram's birthplace back from what was done by a foreigner. And we must include all Indians and invite them to the temple. Come pray there, come honor Lord Ram.
That's a beautiful message. But since you've spoken of that, there's one particular line of discourse that, look, this isn't a civilizational shift. This isn't a civilizational change that we're witnessing, but rather one focused on one religion. What do you say to that? That this is about Hinduism, nothing beyond?
Uh, is Lord Ram Hindu? Of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, he is a Hindu god. Is the temple, Hindu place? Yes, of course it is. But do we discriminate and not allow other people to come? No, of course not. We want them to come. And we want them to, because Lord Ram belongs to all of us. Just like yoga, of course, has Hindu Buddhist roots. That doesn't mean that we insist that you have to convert to Hinduism, to practice yoga. Yoga is good for you, do it. But of course, it has Hindu Buddhist roots. It's the same thing, I would argue, that for Indians of all communities, all regions, Lord Ram had said so beautifully in the Ramcharitmanas, Purush Napunsak Nari va Jeeva Charachar Koi, Sarva Bhav Bhaja Kapat Taji, Mohi Param Priya Soy. Any man, any woman, any transgender, any living being, any plant, any animal, give up deceit, love each other, come to me, you're my people. What can be a more inclusive statement than that? Lord Ram said that.
The idea of having, the perfect human, of the ideal man, I think that transcends any religious thought. Amish, thank you very much for your time, for joining us here on India Today.
Thank you and Jai Shri Ram.